All right, we're in the zone now. This is happening. This is real.
We're almost in the zone. We'll flow into the zone.
This is real, though, right?
It's real.
Okay. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful
Brian,
to be
welcome.
here.
Thank you.
Got 2 Brians today.
It's a Brian sandwich right now. No, it's a Joe sandwich.
It's a Joe sandwich.
On Bry.
Yeah. On Bry.
It'd be better if we were Ryan.
All right, we're starting this thing over. We can't. All right, so
I actually did. I just recycled that joke. I made it one time with 2 friends named Ryan that were both hitting on the same girl. I was like, you guys need to do this. Call it a sandwich on rye bread.
yeah. So how did it go for them?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a text thread.
Yeah, that's the safest place to experiment with dark humor.
She blocked everybody.
Yeah. So
if I munch ice in the microphone, you need to yell at me.
Oh,
that just means you're enjoying yourself and your tequila.
Oh, tequila sounds good.
Tequila is good.
What do we have? We're having iced coffee. What'd you put in this? Just milk?
So, yeah, well, let's just get right into the really interesting stuff here. Yeah, we're drinking iced coffee.
Tequila and iced coffee. We're on different different zones right now.
Yeah. I make Chemex. I use the Chemex and I do Cafe Bustelo, and then I just let it sit, and then I put it in the refrigerator, and that's what I consider iced coffee.
Mm-hmm. But what else did you put in there? Milk?
Yeah, a little bit of milk.
A little bit of milk, okay.
Yeah.
That's what iced coffee is, right? It's just coffee that you make cold. It's like cold brew's different.
Some people make like that concentrated stuff so that when the ice melts, the coffee still tastes strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's no hemp in here.
Let's do this podcast about iced coffee.
These are CBD ice cubes. No.
Oh man,
that is weird though, right? Like they have CBD cocktails now, CBD infused cocktails.
CBD's great, man.
But I mean, like,
so you're like, I'm a little hammered, but my inflammation's great.
I just feel like that whoever figured that, there's like, now we have another thing we can upcharge people 100%. For on a cocktail.
Yeah, and I think also too, a lot of it is in stuff like that. I think they're kind of trying to take advantage of people who don't really know better, and they think they're getting like a marijuana drink, and it's like, no, it's just, it might.
Well, they do those too, though.
Right, but that's different, right?
Yeah.
And that's obviously we know why they're doing that.
Are there weed drinks?
You get fucking stoned and drunk, dude.
That's too much. I don't know if I'd want to drink my weed. I guess I'd have to get used to it.
I had a friend who used to talk to me, and he said he used to like to drink sake, and I was saying, man, sake is so interesting because like, when the first time you drink sake, it's probably just drinking cheap hot sake at a fucking sushi restaurant. That was for me. And I was like, whoa, this is such a weird experience. He's like, yeah, man, it reminds me of drinking and smoking weed at the same time. Like somehow like it affected your brain in a way.
I feel like there should be separate worlds, I think. I don't know. Like
weed and drinking?
Yeah, like for me, drinking is like something that I do to, like put it this way, as soon as I have like a beer or any kind of drink at all, I'm not working at that point. There's nothing productive that is going to happen. Nothing really creative that is going to happen. Like it just turns my brain into another gear of I'm just hanging out. Mm-hmm. And then, but if I smoke weed, then it's like, I wish I wasn't hanging out with people right now so that I could be working.
I kind of feel the same way. Like I feel like marijuana is like, it's like something that enhances my work. But like if I want to stop and have a drink, it's like, I don't want to have a drink until I got like all my shit done. Because if I started having a drink, then I want to be in the mode of like, okay, now I'm just going to watch a movie or whatever. I'm just going to chill out now.
Yeah, some kind of electric guitar needs to start happening somewhere.
That should always be happening somewhere. I can work sometimes drinking. Weed, you can definitely work on weed. It can like focus you on whatever it is you're trying to focus on. 100%. That can be really good. But alcohol, like yesterday, I sat at, I don't know if you guys know what is it? At the happy hour deals at Frothy. Mm-hmm. You can get 2 for $1 glasses of wine. It's like $6 for
like on a Wednesday or whatever.
Wine. Any day.
I don't really, it's funny. I end up going to Frothy pretty often. The one near here.
For those not in Nashville, there's a place called Frothy Monkey that is like a coffee restaurant.
But it also has a full bar now.
But also has a bar.
Yeah, they do wine and stuff, and you can get
terrible name, good stuff.
Yeah, Frothy
They got a bunch
Monkey.
of beers there too.
It's like a rabid monkey.
Right? They should just call it Rabid Monkey.
When they first opened that one on the one on 12th Avenue South was the first one. I remember seeing that and being like, "There's no way they're gonna make it," because that is the dumbest name for a place.
That place is always packed.
They're owned by Bongo and everything, right? Or is
no, different group. Yeah, and I also want to say,
we're really sticking with the coffee theme today.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
escape it.
I almost want to say too that now the different locations have different owners, but I don't know if that's true.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I drink a lot of coffee, so I hear these things.
So when you're so if you're doing a mural, you probably can't be drunk, right?
Oh yeah, I can.
You can?
Oh yeah.
What about like if you're in a lift?
Not hammered.
Not like on a lift?
Yeah.
Really?
Not hammered.
Yeah.
I don't really get hammered though. Like when I'm drinking.
Yeah.
My body kind of shuts down after like a good buzz. And my body doesn't shut down. I mean, like I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to go past a certain point.
I'm the same way. Like I feel like I always thought I was rare in that way. Like where some people are like, I don't know, it just got away from me, and then I got wasted or whatever.
Yeah,
There's certain people that just there's a switch that flips, and all of a sudden they're just drunk. I've probably been drunk, really like actually drunk 3 times in the past 20 years.
Yeah, I've never. The only time I ever have not remembered something was my 22nd birthday, and someone was like, "Yeah, dude, you came in and saw me at the bar." And I was like, I don't remember that. And but I remember everything. I remember like getting home. I remember being way too drunk and just not like, I don't like that.
I feel like there's like actually a blackout culture thing for the like younger
blackout
crowd.
culture.
Like where they just like where it's almost like not as, it's like a mark of success for them to go out to the point of blacking out.
Like, and they now? I thought like nowadays kids were more like they don't want to do drugs and they don't want to drink.
Well, I guess we just don't understand kids.
Maybe there's some of both. Like there's some like that. And then the other people are like, "Fuck that, we're gonna get wasted."
I see very few drunk high 12-year-olds.
Most 12-year-olds, Brian, they don't even want to drink.
Yeah,
they think it's yucky.
Do you remember the first alcoholic drink you ever had? I just remember like drinking like my dad's Lowenbrau. You know?
Oh well, I had like wine coolers growing up, but I remember the first time I got drunk. It was a New Year's thing, and I went. Oh right. I was at the grocery store earlier that day with my grandma. She was in town from Miami. She lives in Miami, and we went, and I convinced her to buy me this handle of like, it was a Bacardi mojito, like mixed, because I didn't know. I just saw something when we were going. I was like, "Hey, will you buy this for me?" Because I was going to a friend's house later for some New Year's thing, and it was so gross, but I did get drunk. But I was dating someone at the time, and she got more drunk. So my first time being drunk, I had to take care of a like very drunk girl all night. Literally,
it's rough.
Yeah. The holding the hair.
Basically, yeah. We were in the bathroom. I was like falling asleep on the bathroom floor, like while she was puking.
You're like, this is all the fun stuff that the older people are doing. Now I get to be miserable too.
Yeah. It's like, wait, this is what I thought it was.
In a friend's basement.
It is funny though. Like you get to the point where there's some pivot point in your life where you're like, you know what? I'd rather just have less stuff that is quality.
Yeah.
Like, because when I was a teenager, we would like steal Mad Dog from the drugstore or whatever, and then like go to the fair. And it's just
awesome. This is a crazy sentence.
Disgusting grape flavored, like hobo wine type of stuff.
I don't. Quality's great, but I still don't need it really.
Yeah. Well, for beer, I need low quality. The high quality beer actually is bad for me. It gives me a headache. I can't deal.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. I mean, like a lot of one of the things that's tough about that. Yeah, a lot of the craft beers and stuff is that it's got like, I mean, it's like this is stronger than wine, and you drink it by the pint, and it's like, God damn it! Like I didn't want to get fucking wasted. I wanted to have a beer with my friend. Yeah. So like I've gotten into situations where it's like you got to like double check that gravity, alcohol by volume number, and see what you're getting into before you order something you haven't had before.
I don't fuck with beer, like at all. Well, I don't do wheat.
Just cocktails,
gluten. No gluten. I'm a bougie bitch.
What does that? Why do you not do gluten? What does it do? If
Inflammation.
You do gluten?
Makes my body hurt.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like I chowed a burger at Melrose last night. We were playing pool. I was playing pool with a friend. And I just like had barely eaten all day, so I was just like, I'm just gonna, slam this burger, and like immediately, like my nose starts running, and my body hurts. It just aches. Everything aches. Yeah. So anything I can do to make my body not hurt, I'm just gonna avoid. Whatever that is.
Yeah. So when you drink tequila at the bar, then? Yeah.
Tequila soda is my go-to for sure. Just like straight liquor, a clear liquor, and like if you're drinking water, you can get like a good buzz, feel totally fine the next day. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
The only time I drink beer is actually when I go out at home. I only drink like red wine usually. So
wine's fun. I like wine.
But you play. I feel like if I played guitar, I would drink more. It feels like that's something you should do together.
I prefer. When I used to play shows, I think I would play better. People even told me I would play better like when I would drink, because it relieves like anxiety and inhibition and stuff like that. And so you're not thinking about stuff and you're just kind of playing. But I find I can kind of lose some feeling with it. Obviously, kind of numbs you out and stuff. Weed used to really fuck up my like music shit. But now I've
like your inner conversations, like right now everybody's watching me. Why is that light so blue? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. What's this note? Is this one right? But I've found
is this one right?
And I would be like playing completely off key, like in a completely different key, and just not even like everyone's like looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But that was when I kind of first started smoking weed, and so it does build up a lot of that anxiety and stuff. So I was just like riding this wave of anxiety, just like, oh shit, trying to play. But now I feel like I've kind of figured out how to alleviate some of those anxiety things and just kind of like feel it. And it has kind of helped me feel the music stuff more. But I do have since I'm not playing guitar professionally or anything like that anymore, I feel like I have a much better relationship with it now.
Yeah, I feel that. I miss that feeling of like when you're young and you're playing a show. It was just like that is the biggest deal. Like the last time I played like in a band, that was a few years ago, and we would play shows and I would be like sort of excited about it, I guess, or whatever. But I'm more just thinking about like I don't want to set up anything. I don't want to carry anything. I don't want to like
one of those things you don't think about.
And you're playing drums, right?
It's also like like when you're on rock and roll time and then you're supposed to go on at this time, but then it's not going to be for another fucking hour.
And just you're like in the zone. And you just want to go. You just want to play. But you got to like wait and like set up and all that shit. Sound check. People would hate me. I'd just be like ripping in sound check. I'd be like, dude, shut up. Sound check.
It's I don't know. It's just funny how like there's the difference between playing shows when I was like 22 versus 40 in my 40s. Right. Because in your 40s, I'm just like I just the only time I'm happy about it is when it's actually going on, like when you're actually playing. But everything else that surrounds it entirely is something I just can't stomach really anymore. So that's kind of why I just don't
play as much.
I just don't do it anymore, which is weird, right? Because like when you're young, you have that the ambition of it is so like palpable, and you're just in it so hard, like this is like my shit.
You don't care how many people are there. Like you're just the fact that you are on a stage being able to play, you know what I mean? It's just that vibe. You just you love it. Yeah. Even if it's just the sound guy who's never heard you play before, it's just like fuck the sound guy up.
Blew his mind.
That's hilarious.
Really, he was actually on headphones listening to something else. But I mean, it's your concentration now, though. Obviously, for those who don't know Brian, he's a really amazing artist, visual artist. So, like, do you find that with your visual work that, like, I'm not saying is the thrill gone, but like you've gone through some changes with that? Like, what have you left behind, and what's turning you on now?
Well, gone through changes with everything, and the biggest thing I've been finding lately is how connected everything is, and like how much the things I've learned through music and, you know, like skateboarding and whatever, even just like conversationally, stuff like that, kind of just being able to get rid of that shit in the back of your head, and you can just like be in the moment and like and feel a vibe and like ride that and capture a vibe.
Yeah,
like that's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
and that was something I was never able. I didn't understand when I was younger. I was just so like numb to all that. And now, as I'm kind of becoming more aware of those things, it really does translate across all mediums, and not just artistically. I mean, it translates into every aspect of life, literally. I mean, just being able to sit in a conversation with someone and not come through with any expectations, not come through with like an ego. Because when you're younger, you know, you have that ego, that you have this self-perception that you need to impress people, and you need to prove yourself and all that stuff. And then when you can get rid of that stuff and you can actually let some real shit out, then that's, yeah, I mean, that comes across in everything, you know, just having a conversation one-on-one with someone in a bar or sitting down playing guitar. Art is, you know, that's where I have been most trying to apply that lately. And it has been coming out, but it's also, you know, it makes you vulnerable. You're putting some real shit into your stuff, and it makes you, I like my work now more, but I'm also, you know, it's scary to show that stuff to other people sometimes.
Just because it's more, I don't know, real. Or I guess
it's more real. Like when you're operating under false pretenses, it's easy to put that shit out. If people don't like it, it's just like, well, you know, it wasn't really you. It was kind of
a caricature or some concoction or some particular angle, as opposed to the entirety of
an act.
So if you're weaving all of a sudden experience on all levels into what you're doing, then there is something more on the line about it, because it's a more honest, holistic reflection of what you're about and what you've learned and what you're doing, as opposed to like when you're young and you're impersonating the masters, or, you know, like I'm just gonna, you know, play complicated music and see if I can pull it off. Like it's sort of athletic, or it's competitive, or, you know, something like that. And then later on you're like, I'm actually putting myself into this. So yeah, I guess maybe it's a little bit more risky, but I guess ultimately too, you realize that things are cultural. All the things that inspired you were organically grown out of culture, and these people that were playing blues music on their porch, or, you know, whatever it was that inspired you, like they didn't have any constructs about them. They were not, like, they were just being themselves, and that became sort of a cultural mark. And so I think that in this world that we live in now, where there's so many influences and so many things going on, it's that much harder to discern what is my place, what is my time, what is my culture, what am I saying uniquely.
Yeah, and the blues specifically, like, you know, where that stuff came from was a group of disenfranchised people that it came from this like place of nothing to lose, sort of, you know. So there's no element of oh, what if people don't like this, or oh, what if people judge me, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's real shit, and that's like, yeah, the more you can put all that bullshit in your head aside and get to that real shit, that's like that's the goal of any artist, for sure. Definitely any artist. I mean, it should be the goal of everybody. I think, you know, being able to really let that real shit out. I
think that's where you get into the whole thing where, if I don't know how we would say, like, if you're really doing it or whatever, but I feel like you end up finding that the creative path is like also the path of like self-enlightenment, if you want to call it that, or whatever. That you end up realizing that it's that it's a spiritual thing ultimately, even though you've got a kind of a practice that you do that maybe a monk doesn't have. It's like he's got another kind of practice.
Yeah.
I mean, because of this whole thing of like getting rid of the ego and all that stuff.
It forces you, if you're like really getting into some creative shit, it forces you to explore yourself emotionally. Exactly. And it forces you to like really dig in and call yourself, and it forces you to attempt to understand the shit that's really going on in there. And the more you can kind of put those emotions and those feelings into concrete descriptions, at least in your head, then the more, like, that's why I love comedy so much. I just had this conversation with someone the other day. I love comedy because I feel like it kind of coats some of the hardest pills to swallow in life with humor, which allows you to approach it in a more, it just allows you to approach it at all, like that's why I love when comedians really try and make, whether they're successful or not, but the fact that people at least attempt to make jokes about the hardest things in life. It's like when people say, there's nothing funny about rape, or there's nothing funny about abortion. It's like, yeah, those are really heavy topics. And the fact that there's people saying there's nothing funny about it, like, that's why we need to try and make some shit that's funny about it, because that's what's going to allow us to approach it. And I mean, those might have been bad examples, because I'm not like,
you just picked the only two things.
But like
AIDS, we're fine with that, right? Like, that's funny now.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
AIDS is hilarious. No, but like 9/11 jokes, that's a classic example, right? It's like, there was the whole too soon thing, so it's like how long, but once you can start to make jokes about it, it's like, I don't know, then you can kind of start to explore some of the feelings that do exist there, because there's a ton of feelings, and people don't want to touch on those feelings, because there's such strong feelings.
That really is it. That's a great way to explain it, because there is no people are either on one side of it or the other. Some people enjoy sort of being kind of tickled or agitated in that way, to be forced to reconcile with an uncomfortable topic or whatever. And then other people, their conditioned response is just of this kind of it's like a lever just immediate, like that reverence, like you can't fuck with that, but really it is made, I think, of what you're talking about, like where people just can't handle, they don't have the constitution to, but I think also what it is that, I don't think that I think there's certain people that don't understand comedy as an art form and what its role in culture and society is and has been for a long time.
Because a lot of times when people hear humor about any sort of serious topic like that, they assume that it's being made fun of.
Right.
But what it's doing is, like, you're exploring that topic. You're trying to inject humor into it so that you can, get into it. And there's going to be jokes that are made in good taste and poor taste. And, good humor is always going to be in good taste. You want it should come. You don't want an abortion joke from a 16-year-old dude.
Well, but the problem too is that it's prismatic and it's based on a lot of other contexts and things. So, like, for instance, like, have you seen Chappelle's new special?
I've only seen clips. I have heard, and the reason I haven't seen it is because my internet's been out and I'm getting fiber installed in my apartment, and there's no like AT&T fiber technicians in Tennessee right now. So I've been waiting like weeks to get.
Geez. They're all down in like Florida and stuff, like dealing with hurricane stuff, or where are they?
I don't know, man. I have no idea.
I like your example. I just want to say this real quick, because I think that the people who, like, when you say abortion joke and people react, right? That, like, reacting like that's the fucking ego right there. That's it. That's what like a joke is great, because it allows you, especially a joke about something that you're uncomfortable about, because it's like it disarms you in this way where you're laughing before you can have that reaction or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that it's a good example for talking about that whole idea of, like, the way that we get in our own way with our egoic shit. You know what I mean? As artists, as humans, whatever. As comedy connoisseurs.
It's like when you go through a really traumatic experience, whatever it is, emotionally or physically, whatever, and it sucks at the time, but then it's like, you know, the classic example of being like, well, oh, you're gonna laugh about this, you know, X amount of time from now, because you've had time to sort of digest those feelings and everything, and remove yourself emotionally from it. And a lot of those topics are so emotionally charged. And I mean, and again, that's also what good comedy explores, is deep emotional shit. It's trying to dig in, find those relatable emotions that everybody has, but that not everybody is totally aware of having, and like being able to relate to other people so that you don't feel alone, because a lot of, you know, you feel alone when you're feeling a lot of these like weird, crazy emotional things, and then being able to laugh about it is just like, it's such a
I forgot about how you're actually such a comedy fan and connoisseur. The last time we hung out, that was when we realized that Louis C.K. was doing the thing in town. Did you go to that?
Oh yeah.
How was it?
It was great. Yeah. I saw that bootlegged set a few months before when it was released, when somebody recorded it. And it's whatever. I love Louis. So when someone released his bootlegged set, I wasn't gonna be like, oh well, that's not right. Well, I'm gonna listen to it. Yeah. If someone puts that out, I'm gonna listen to it.
It's document.
And I remember there was a ton of heat around it at the time, and there still is. I mean, there's a ton of heat around him.
What was the temperature like in the room?
It was great. It was great, dude. I got there early.
Yeah.
And oh god, I had pink hair at the time. I was such a dipshit. All the openers made fun of me. Louis didn't pay me any attention. Someone called me gay Slim Shady. But I sat literally, front, like the mic was right here. The mic stand was, my arm was resting on the stage. Yeah. Like it was, right there. So being able to see that was really awesome.
Was this at Zany's?
Zany's. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He did like 3 nights, I think, or something.
So I'm glad you brought him up, because we're talking about the 9/11 jokes, and he has the best 9/11 joke of all time. Did we talk about this before?
I don't know.
I shouldn't say it. It's not cool to like say other people's jokes, but
well, you're not stealing it. You're
telling it. You just walk us vaguely through it.
But basically, he says like, you can tell how good or bad of a person you are by how long it took you to masturbate after 9/11.
All right.
And
I think I heard that one. Yeah.
And then and he said for him it was in between Tower 1 and 2. Like it's a perfect joke.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, he's part of the narrative on the Chappelle special that just came out, and just in general,
he was in his last special as well.
Yeah, so I'm not going to give anything away about it, but ultimately, you've probably caught some wind of just how people are responding to it in the media. But because it was Joe and I, we were laughing because like Vice Media was it, you're not talking about this? Like,
I don't know.
Vice was saying like, do yourself a favor and skip, Chappelle's new special or whatever.
I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, and I commented, it might have been you who posted, somebody posted that, and I was like, now I even want to see it more.
That's what I feel like they probably had to deal with them, and they were just like, we're going to tell people not to watch your shit, so many more people are going to watch it. Because that's what happens on the internet.
That's right.
When you tell people not to do something, way more people are going to do it.
Yes, the internet is one big rubbernecking car accident situation.
Yeah. And it's weird because I just don't understand. I don't get the logic that people have of like Louis is a different situation in the sense that he's actually done these things and like has been accused of what do you call it when you're at work? What's it called?
Masturbating.
Yeah, but his stuff had to do with like people, he's doing all this. What do you call sexual harassment, right? So it's like sexual harassment's like a real thing. He's being accused of a real thing. He obviously was doing these real things.
Power,
and at the workplace, and that's fucking shit all the time, always, right? That's different than Dave Chappelle, who is just not being politically correct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and what's so cool about Chappelle is that he's like, a lot of his comedy, again, it is exploring those things that everybody feels like at least a little part. You know, it's that voice in the very back of your mind that says something about one of those topics that you're just like, I'm not going to touch that. Yeah. I'm not going to explore whatever that voice is.
Yeah.
But then he's kind of like, we've all got that voice in the back of our head saying this thing, and then he explores that deep little weird voice, and it's just like, why is that there, you know?
And it's like, the thing I was gonna get to is just that like, this is I mean, some of the comedians are just doing like fart jokes or whatever, but the best comedians are always the ones, and I would also mention the bravest comedians are always the ones who are going to go to that line that they're not supposed to cross and fucking walk right over it, because that's their fucking job.
Yeah.
That's their job. You can move the lines all over the place, and there's going to be comedians who are probably going to be the best comedians around who are going to just be walking all over those lines, like Bill Hicks and people like that. Bill Hicks blew my fucking mind the first time I heard him, because he was just saying shit that nobody else would say, and it blew my fucking mind, you know. But it was also, I mean, we didn't have the internet culture that we have now, and the whole outrage and everything that's going on right now. But at the same time, I mean, he was saying stuff about, you know, the Iraq War and all this stuff that nobody else had the fucking balls to say, and calling people out in a way that nobody else had the balls to do. You know, and that shit was fucking funny, and it was hilarious too. That's the thing. The Dave Chappelle concert is fun. All of his new Netflix stuff has been very funny, and I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, me too. And it's what's cool about the Chappelle stuff is that, like, I've been hearing like without me bringing shit up, because I'm usually the one that's like, oh, did you guys see this new special? You know, whatever. And a lot of my friends who aren't necessarily that into comedy are bringing up Chappelle's special, and it's so split. Like, there's some people who are just like, I really wasn't into it, and it's just like, good. I'm so glad. You don't want to listen to a comedy special where everyone's just like, it was funny, like fucking, I don't know, like Jim Gaffigan.
Perfect example.
Jim Gaffigan's great.
I love Jim Gaffigan.
Awesome. But he's that type of
It's household and it's safe.
He's not challenging anybody's anything. You know what I mean? But he's still hilarious. Absolutely.
And then I love it.
Who do you kind of remind me of, by the way?
Who
do you think I'm going to say?
Bruce Lee.
We're talking we're talking about comedy.
I hate Quentin Tarantino.
Do you?
No, I don't. I just say that there was a controversy about the way Bruce Lee was depicted. Yeah.
I thought it was great.
But
someone
was a comedian.
Tom Segura. Kind of remind me of Tom Segura.
Oh, I can see that
facially.
Yeah.
Tom who? I don't know if I know
Tom Segura.
Who is that?
I'll show you a picture of him later.
Okay, but is he actor?
He's a comedian.
He's also
I know
Your
who he
Mom's
is.
House podcast.
If I saw him, I would know who he was. I know his wife. I mean, I know his wife. I know his name.
She's performing.
I know his wife. I'm gonna look him up.
I know your wife.
I'm gonna look it up right now. Hey, Tommy, hey, say your wife for me. You never hear anybody say that.
Say your wife for me. Wait, what were you just saying?
I don't know, but I was just curious about, like, why don't you do stand up?
I don't think I'm like a funny.
It doesn't mean you have to be good at it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if I want to,
like, just to do it, just to understand it better or something.
I'll probably do it once in my life, just to, like, have that experience, but it's not something I necessarily want to pursue.
This is the picture I like.
That's a good one. Oh, that's you see good. What I'm saying, right?
Yeah. That's really good. Gosh, Tom Segura, doppelganger.
But know what I was saying about Bruce Lee's depiction in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino's. Someone was explaining that to me and was saying how it was a caricature of Bruce Lee because it was like coming from a flashback that Brad Pitt was having at the time. Brad Pitt's character was having at the time. So it was like his memory of the situation. So it was like naturally caricaturized.
Right, that's what I've heard too. And I think we actually talked to a guy on our podcast a couple seasons ago, Matthew Polly, who wrote the book about Bruce Lee. It's like 400 pages long. It came out earlier this year, and I'm talking to his manager right now about getting him to come back on to talk about that. He's been traveling, but he has been one of the main guys online who you see popping up in these interviews and stuff to sort of say, here's the real story behind Bruce Lee at that time, and here's what I don't like about the way it was portrayed and things like that. He's also Chinese American, so he's got his own ideas about, you know, how he feels about Bruce Lee and all that stuff. So he's got a cool perspective on it. Hopefully we'll talk to him about it soon. Well, and he's partial or involved with the family, so I think he's sort of the mouthpiece for the family, I suppose, in a way. As a sort of this pundit Well, they certainly, I think they're very happy with the way he handled Bruce Lee in his book, and they aren't happy with the way that Quentin Tarantino. I mean, it's tough. It's sort of like, okay, this is a creative thing. It's a movie. It's fictional. It's a reimagining. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie. And like, have you seen Kill Bill? Like, that's not the way limbs get chopped off. That's not the way blood spurts out of someone's shoulder when you chop their arm off with a samurai sword. That's a beautiful movie. Which I've seen.
In person?
Yeah.
In real life?
Yeah.
Okay, so
what are you talking about?
No, I'm totally kidding.
I'm like, I think we got to tell this story.
I was just ready to sit back and be like,
I did it for comparison purposes. I was like, dude, I need to chop your arm off to get a read on this Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
would you rather be without one arm or without one leg?
Dude, I would probably go either right now because the prosthetics are just like, I would
kind of banging.
They're banging, dude.
Carbon fiber,
and they're getting it to the point where you can like
trick them out.
Where you can feel stuff.
Oh, you can feel stuff.
They're allowing people
to
start, like they're wiring it in.
Whoa.
To where you can feel shit with prosthetic limbs.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, give it another few years, give it another, I don't know, 10, 20 years, and we're going to
voluntarily
just snapping that shit on.
Yeah. Like, I don't want this old ass human arm.
There's going to be people chopping their limbs off for some prosthetic shit.
Like, my arm can't be on Wi-Fi.
You remind me when I was in college, a kid wrote a weird short story about like a near future when it became fashionable to like chop your arms off and shit. Like everybody was
just
like,
as a fashion.
Everybody was like chopping their arm off because it was the cool thing to do. It was sort of, this is like the early 90s, so it was like that was the beginning of all like the piercing culture and all that really got big back then. Yeah. So he just sort of like took that to its logical end, basically.
Well, you know, like the whole the whole like biohacking subculture. Like there's conventions and like it's basically just like
people have gotten like plastic surgery to have horns and shit.
It's like steampunk shit, but like they're putting stuff in their body. Like they'll cut open their arm and then implant like Raspberry Pi computers and shit, and like they're
what is a Raspberry Pi computer?
It's a very small
it's Brian's Wu-Tang name.
It's a very small open source running sort of little computing system. It's like a micro computing system that you can configure to do whatever you want.
Is that like, what's that other thing called? That people use this to like connect like movement to like music and lights and shit. You'll see it a lot in like that culture.
Connect or the
there's a
like dimension beam like controllers, you mean?
I don't know, there's a word I want to use that's like it's like a thing like this that everybody uses.
Well, yeah, so you know, but I just like that's like a thing that happened. Like
Robbie Hunsinger?
No.
Okay.
Should I?
I'm just trying to think of what this thing is that like sound artists use all the time and stuff. Fuck. It's some kind of like
mushrooms?
I'm gonna make a no. Oh, I just had it. God damn it. Okay, I'll think about it. Let me just think about it.
Well, anyway, but it's I just think it's really interesting. Like everything starts with a subculture.
Arduino,
yes.
Is that the same thing?
Yeah, same shit. Yeah.
I've never heard that term before.
Arduino? Barely brought it back.
It's a whole ecosystem of open source software and hardware that people can use to do any number of
to make a little
things.
robot do a flip.
It sounds like one of George Lucas's botched Star Wars characters.
Arduino.
So what is one of the dudes hanging out at the cantina?
R2-D2's like third name before they got there.
He's one of the weird side characters that you see the action figure at in the toy store. You're like, Arduino? What was that? It's like Star Wars Arduino. He's this weird. He's like, he was in the back corner of the cantina.
He's holding like a bar rag in the cantina.
I
guess I'll collect him too.
What was that character? He was the bar back at the cantina. Arduino.
Arduino barback. He wasn't old enough to serve drinks.
He was waiting on his license.
What's better, George Lucas, all of the Star Wars movies, or American Graffiti? Have you seen American Graffiti, by the way?
I feel like it did when I was like 10.
Harrison Ford, they're just cruising around. That's the whole movie, isn't it?
It's like Midwestern.
Yeah, but it also is like a weird like preview of Happy Days, right? Because like Richie Cunningham is in it, and so is like Laverne or Shirley's in it.
Yeah,
I don't know. A couple of people are in it.
It's true. It is like a Happy Days prequel.
Yeah,
it's such a beautiful movie though. It's Shelley Duvall's in that when she was like 13.
It's a good like if you're into 70s movies, of course you got to see that shit.
The 70s movies is my shit.
They're great.
Yeah, like the conversation. I was watching this thing the other day because I've seen Dog Afternoon probably about 15 times. I know
you love the conversation. The whole thing is just like audio geek heaven.
Yeah, it is kind of audio, like tape machine porn. Gene Hackman and
John Cazale.
Yeah, so
he's a genius.
Speaking of, right? So Dog Afternoon. I learned all this, like didn't realize that on YouTube there's all these people that just fully nerd out on these movies and go through and tell you all of the shit that you didn't know on like a scene by scene basis of how and why this all happened and all that. Have you ever seen Dog Afternoon by chance? Al Pacino and
a couple of idiots trying to rob a bank.
But it's a true story of these guys that robbed a bank in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible story because it's basically this guy is trying to rob this bank to get money to pay for his boyfriend's
sex change.
And this is like in the 70s.
And this is all real.
And it's all real.
Yeah.
Very relatable.
Yeah, right? Yeah, just
that fucking Attica scene's my favorite.
So exactly. So like that in particular. So Sidney Lumet directed this, right? And he's known for like preparing people deeply, like rehearsing everything. There's no improv. There's no like everything is very blocked out and very thought about. No wasted time. Well, that was improvised. And Pacino had, like one of the assistant directors was just like throwing shit at him to like yell out, and then
because there's like a crowd has gathered outside the bank, and at some point he's like yelling at the cops and talking to the cops, and then he starts riling up the people.
But that whole Attica line, Attica, Attica,
because the Attica riot had just happened like a year before that or something, so it was like in the air.
I just love finding out all those little details after the fact when I'm really deeply familiar with something, so it doesn't affect how I love
young Pacino too. Young Pacino is very different from old Pacino, but young Pacino's, I like both Pacinos, but young Pacino's great.
All the Pacinos.
He's like trying to do like Brando, but his voice is like a lot higher, and he's talking like this.
He's got the
it's like so high,
he's so fiery.
The new Pacino's like.
And he's like sweaty and his eyes are bulging and it's fucking beautiful.
Back then there was such a new crop of filmmakers that were just like dying to make amazing shit. And it was like, I think about the limitations they had, like running like Panavision film, and you got 10 minutes per reel. So like that would, if they had a long dialogue scene that they were kind of fleshing out, then they would be like, okay, we're going to run like 3 cameras, and while this one runs out, this one will be, this medium shot will be kind of running, and then we'll just stuff that we don't have to think about at all now. But I think that I'm a big fan of constraints. I love like not having everything at your disposal. I'm so like
into S&M and stuff.
Right, just no limits, man.
I know.
Just whatever.
Love constraints, dude.
Yeah. Constrain me.
No limits or all the limits.
Constrain moi.
Oh man. God, my wife and I actually watched. There was a really good documentary.
I thought that story was about to go like totally different.
On what now? On what?
My wife and I.
But speaking of constraints,
there's a documentary guy. It's kind of like a Louis Theroux kind of character, but previous generation. I can't remember his name, but he's made a ton of really amazing documentaries. Anyway, he did one on this like S&M type of joint in New York, and it is such a fascinating documentary.
What's the name of it? Do you know?
I think it's called Fetish.
But it's about like it's like an older movie from like a different era.
It's a documentary from I want to say probably early 90s or late 80s.
Oh wow, okay.
But it's just profound. I mean, I didn't realize, because it's New York, right? So it's all like the guys that are the power brokers, Wall Street guys, that the clientele, they go to this place and pay all this money to be told to get down on all fours and like lick sweat up off the floor.
It's like
and
Wolf
stuff.
of Wall Street, right?
Yeah, dude, there's like businessmen who will pay thousands of dollars to get kicked in the balls all night or something. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Some eyes wide shut party shit.
Yeah, and the question is really I think the largest question that raises for me when I'm aware of things like that is that a write-off?
Exactly. See, they're figuring out a way to write that shit off.
That's why it's called S&M, because it just sounds like a distributor company or something.
Right? Yeah. It's all part of a money grift.
I think they make spark plugs.
S&M Co.
Yeah, there used to be. This is a true story. There used to be if people who live in Nashville, if you know the Belmont Hillsborough neighborhood between Belmont and, well, I guess it was technically between like 12th and 8th like 8th, like Franklin Pike at that point, down in that part of that neighborhood. Basically, this is if you lived on Belmont and you were driving down to the Kroger, you would pass down this road, and just as you were getting closer to 8th, there was a tiny little what do you call it, like a cinder block sort of building, very kind of small, and it was all white, and then in big black letters, like nicely painted black letters, it said S&M communion bread, and it was like a little bakery basically where they literally made communion wafers, and it was called S&M, and that shit was funny every time I drove by it. And I drove by it all the time, and every time I'd just be like, that shit is unbelievable.
There's a place on 8th Ave right now, I don't know what it is, it's just a building, it's like right next to Grimey's, and it's just called BBC.
Huh. You mean the Grimey's is closed now?
Yeah, on 8th.
Yeah.
BBC.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, man.
BBC?
Yeah.
You don't know anything about BBC?
It's British.
No, not the British version. No.
It took me a second because I was like, it's like the British Broadcasting Company.
Yeah. So tell us all about what you're talking about here.
Oh, okay. Let me get into the BBC stuff. Hold on, where's my phone? I got some.
Where's my phone?
I won't get into that one.
Copyright violation.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
people. Some people, if you know what I'm talking about, then you'll know.
Call me.
Yeah.
I think if you're on comedy Twitter, you'll probably know what this is.
Yeah. So speaking of all the things you're talking about, what's happening with your creative work right now? What are you into?
I'm heavily into stuff.
Do you have any projects happening right now or coming up?
Yeah, I mean,
besides being on cruises with celebrities or whatever the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, none of those coming up, I don't think. But
did you hang out with Cardi B?
No, we didn't hang out.
Okay,
unfortunately,
it took me. I didn't even know who that was until about 6 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
She endorsed Bernie Sanders, didn't she? That's kind of like she kind of got a little bit more mainstream. She was already had big hits and shit, right?
Oh yeah. No, she's one of the biggest artists in the world probably right now. But work-wise, a lot of the stuff I've been doing, I've really been going more towards the illustrative stuff and trying to simplify as much as I can, and trying to like instead of when I get an idea, thinking about how I need to operate technically and approach this whole thing technically, and then you start going down this whole path of needing to get that idea across in a way that's like all polished and blah blah blah.
I don't think we've said a word about what it is you're actually doing. So I think you need to like also just help listeners understand like what it is that you're doing and like what your art kind of looks like if you can. I know that's a shitty thing to make you have to do.
Oh no, that's all right. I can try and do that. I mean, yeah, it's all over the place. So I mean, I'm a visual artist, so I do a lot of canvas work, like gallery stuff, and I also do large scale stuff, murals, installations, things like that.
Right on.
So whatever it is I'm doing, like whatever my personal work is I'm doing, that ideally ends up driving the professional stuff that you get commissioned to do, right? the stuff that whatever I'm putting out into on social media, this and that's what people see, and then they approach me for that. A lot of times people ask me for older stuff, and that's fine sometimes, but ideally you want to just be really focused on whatever it is you are focused on in the moment. So in the moment it has been like very simple, quick illustrative drawings that when I get an idea or a feeling or whatever it is, I can just bust out, and then whatever that is, just being able to step back and just be like, that's okay, like that's what came out in the moment, there's something to that, and trying to like technicality wise, really focusing on being able to do that quick and be able to get an idea down as fast as I can, and get an idea across as clear as I can, with
kind of painlessly, and to become like how you can transmit this stuff quickly and feel like it's adept and reflective of what you're about.
Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff in the past has been kind of practice. It's all been very technically driven. It's been like, I needed to, again, like what we were talking about before, I needed to prove myself to people. So it was like, I want to make sure this stuff looks really good. I need to make sure that people know that I know what I'm doing. And yeah, you just like want to make stuff. You want to impress people. You want to
and in a tradition or in a style that is already sort of perhaps known or appreciated or understood.
Yeah. So anybody can look at it and just be like, oh yeah, okay, that is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Then there's the whole, oh, my kid could do that mentality. You know, where it's like you have a couple of lines on a paper or a canvas, and the thing about that is it is very polarizing, because in one aspect it's like, yeah, it was very easy to do, but like where is that coming from? And that's what matters. Like what was the intention behind these lines? What led to these lines? If you started there, it would be different, as opposed to having this highly cultivated path that you've been on, so that then you understand what you're eschewing or abandoning or leaving behind. It's like it's a much more conscious thing. I mean, the surrealists had this problem, and a lot of them became abstract expressionists, right? Because and then, so it was like, well, when they were coming up and they were getting their chops down, they were painting really detailed, really technical stuff, and kind of bending reality with reality and all this. And it was very challenging, and there was a known school and a market and everything for it. And then you give it like another 20 years and they're doing, Franz Klein, like Rothko, like they're stuff to where people would respond to it and say like, I could do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no. Yeah. And the thing is with that, the thing is with simplicity, it's like, edit that out.
Yeah.
The thing is with simplicity, obviously when you start getting really technical with shit, there's going to be less people who are like, I could do that. But when it comes to simplicity, it's just like with a product that comes out. It's like the simplest products. It's just like, I could have thought of that. It's like,
that's how you know you're onto something.
Yeah, I don't want to say, but you didn't, because that's people's usual response is, but you didn't, and that's kind of the cliche response. But it's not only that, but when you can really get something super simple down that's so relatable to where people are saying like, I totally could have done that, or like there's a response there. That response, like there's something in that. There's something in people saying like, I could have done that, I could have thought of that, whatever it is, or like, I can't believe I didn't think of that. There's definitely something in that.
It's almost like the same stuff that makes a joke funny, right? Like there's some essence or commonality about it that's so deep. Yeah. And it takes a lot to articulate and have the right beat and the right pause and use space or whatever it is to create that just essential thing. And yeah, it is like this response of, I could have done that, but to say that but you didn't is to say that that's actually readily available to anybody. It's not like that synthesis is not just because they can understand it. That's missing the point. It's actually a highly cultivated experiential iterations of synthesis and reduction and a lot of things to get to that essence.
It's not easy. Like, some of the best jokes come from like when someone says something and you're just like, I've had that thought in my head so many times, and you never talk about it or let it out because you think that it's only you feeling that, and it's like those things that make really good jokes.
Another good example, actually, I can think of real quick is of that thing is like one of my favorite drummers is Tony Williams. He played with Miles and a bunch of people, whatever, but he could play just like a 4/4 beat on the drums, just the most basic pattern that anybody ever learns or plays on the drums. And when you hear him play just a straight, just hardly any, there's no like inflection or stylistic things. I mean, he's literally just playing like on the 2 and the 4 type of thing. You can hear it and hear it that it's him. And whatever the hell that, and it's not
because there's a feeling to it.
there's some, I don't even know what it is. I could never really express what it is. It's not because of the production technique or because he's playing this highly unique snare sound or something. It's just, he's just playing regular shit, playing a very familiar pattern that anybody can play. But there's something like, if you just like zoom into that like 1,000 times, like where he's playing just ahead of the note or just behind the note or whatever.
That feeling. It's when he's just
that
playing
texture
that
or whatever
4/4 beat.
Yeah.
There's a feeling. He's in the moment. He's feeling that 4/4 beat so much that there's that truth.
Yeah,
that's coming
something
out. Something
transfers that is actually there has an identity about it.
Yeah, and
which
people,
is nuts.
And people feel that 100%. And it's the same thing again. It goes across all mediums. Like when you do the same thing with illustration, there's like some of the really simple illustrations when anybody can look at it and it's inspiring. Like when you hear that 4/4 beat and you feel whatever that is, like when you get that feeling across, you can get it across any way you want. But when you get it across, and sometimes the simpler the better. Like if it is just in a straight 4/4 beat, that's going to be more relatable. It's going to be a lot more relatable than some crazy weird time signature and like all this shit. And the same thing with illustration, or the same thing with anything, but like with illustration, I keep talking about illustration, like with skateboarding. Like I love, like one of the best things is just like when you see somebody just like crack a perfectly clean ollie or like kickflip across a gap, and you just you watch them and you feel it because you feel them feeling it. You know, like when it's just simple and it's just clean and there's that feeling in there, and that feeling's tough to get. I mean, it's gotta, like, your head's gotta be clear. You really gotta be like, you know, in the moment, like with the board, and there's that relationship between you and the skateboard, and it's like all the, you know, I don't know, like Bruce Lee talks about being the water and all that stuff, being the water in the glass and all that, or that might be a different reference, but
he talks about water all the time, man.
But yeah, like cheesy,
water.
Cheesy 80s movies where they're playing basketball and they're just like, be the basketball, you know, stuff like that. They're talking about like feeling it. It's like, because if you're too up in your head and you're all analytical and you're trying to think about angles and like what I'm doing, how do I get the ball in the basket, then you're not going to have that feeling. But when you can like relax and be in the moment and you're actually like feeling that basketball or skateboard or pen or, you know, drums or whatever it is, like that feeling you can get that out, and it's
flow
like
state.
Flow state, exactly. And like with what was I gonna say? I don't know. Flow state.
As soon as I said flow state, you were like, yeah. And then just stopped.
But you can do it conversationally.
I took you out of your zone.
You broke my flow, bro.
I broke your flow by talking about flow.
You threw off the Emperor's groove.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that it's anybody that I think does work that I really appreciate generally does a lot of different things or seemingly different things, because I do think that they're just by applying thought and energy to skateboarding and to illustrating and then painting, and then even the things that you actually admire but don't necessarily do in terms of comedy or whatever else, that richness is what makes what somebody does something more special. You know, I think whereas, you know, Joe just shreds, like he's basically Yngwie Malmsteen.
Really?
No. I play guitar, but I'm not Yngwie Malmsteen.
What would be like the pun, what's like the, you know, like there's Com-Trues and, you know, like all those names where people mix up the celebrity name to make their new artist name. What would be the Yngwie Malmsteen, Mingve Youngstein or something? What would it be?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a new trend.
Like if you were going to have like your band name, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yngwie Malmsteen would be Mingve Malmsteen.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what you do, is you just
flip the letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
kinda.
Yeah. Com-Trues, Tom Cruise, right? Com-Trues.
Well,
the Chixie
Dicks.
Dicks.
A whole world I don't know about.
Is that a
the
thing?
Chixie Dicks.
The Chixie Dicks. It should be.
Did you just come up with that?
Great.
No, I feel like I've heard that
trademark it right
somewhere.
away.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can
Chixie
trademark
Dicks.
it.
That's coming. Yeah, they should literally have a band called the Chixie Dicks at like Play or something, like a country music. Like
I'm sure it's a
LGBT
thing.
country music band.
Yeah.
That is really good.
Yeah.
So we're incubating ideas here. This is part of what we do.
We're starting a band.
We're talking about Chixie Dicks, and he's like incubators.
This is what we're gonna do, guys.
We're starting a band.
No, but it's I like how every good stoned conversation that starts to arrive at some conclusion, it always is like, dude, you know what we should do?
Yeah.
I've always loved that phenomena of like, dude, you know, we should totally,
dude.
Yeah. Like how many ideas have gone to die in that exact place?
Yeah, because the next thing that happens is you never do those things.
But that's probably some real shit, though. I mean, that's like coming from a place that's like, even if it is in the moment. That's why I can't ever get too mad. I don't know, when people are like, oh, this person always says they want to hang out and then they never do or something. It's like in the moment they probably really did.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then people are complicated, though.
Yeah, and a lot of people have complicated lives.
And that's what I was going to talk about with that feeling before. The feeling stuff with that is that like that shit comes and goes. I mean, it's some people have it for forever, and I think if you have it from a very young age, I think it's probably very overwhelming.
And usually in one discipline, probably.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, that's like I've always kind of related it to the 27 Club, sort of, and how a lot of those, you know, very influential artists died at such a young age, and they had such an impact on the world with their art and everything. It's because they probably didn't have a whole lot of shit keeping their feelings from just that feeling from coming out, and that's like that's not easy to deal with if you're not equipped to deal with it. And it's one of those things as I'm getting older. I mean, I never had it when I was younger. I mean, at all. It's completely numb. And as it kind of comes in and out, you know, the first time you feel it, it's just like, it's crazy. You don't know what it is. And then the more you kind of, the more it kind of comes and goes, you realize what are the factors that are leading to it? What are the factors that are keeping you from feeling it?
Are you talking about feeling this flow state, or what's the feeling that you're talking about?
I think that's what you're saying. Yeah,
flow state, basically. Yeah, but and I think, I don't know if they're directly connected, but
being
just
in the moment thing, right?
Being in the moment and getting rid of those things in the back of your head that keep you from.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, if we're having a conversation right now, and in the back of my head, I'm like, what I'm saying is stupid, then you're not going to be able to really get your thought out. You know, then your thought is going to be clouded in insecurity and caveats and just like all this shit that doesn't add to getting that thought out. So the more you can like get rid of all that shit and just really be in that moment and base your behavior on the feeling in the moment and not have expectation, because that's what I was saying before, that expectation. Like whenever I go into a situation and I have too much expectation, it kills it. Kills it because you're not feeling the vibe. You're not rolling with the feeling. You're bringing your ego and expectation and self-image, however
and none of those things are in the present.
It's completely disconnected from
and it's all like it's like all about like an unconscious desire to like control this shit, you know, because you want to define it and understand it all before you even get there. And it's like, or you could just let it be amazing or just let it be terrible, because probably no matter what you bring into this party, it's not helping. It's only going to get in the way. You know, because it's only going to be what it actually is.
And the control thing is huge. The control thing is huge. And that's something I've had to be aware of with myself. And you don't realize it in the moment, but then you step back later and you're like, I was very uncomfortable with whatever it is whatever situation I was in. And I was like really trying to control it. And it's when you're trying to control it, that's that like outside thing. That's just like, I don't understand this. I don't feel comfortable with this. I need to control it.
I think it's different. I think it's interesting with when you think about it, just for physical activities or things that you do, because like I just think about playing soccer, basketball. I've done a lot of skateboarding in my time when I was younger, snowboarding, all those things. It's like you have to throw yourself at something in a way with a certain amount of abandon, but with this background kind of view that it's like you program yourself to do that, to let go, but then when you're in it, you're just kind of making micro adjustments, but you're allowing yourself also to fall or fail or whatever, but you have to be like sort of loose, and you have to come at it like, so if you're just shooting,
loose is a good word.
If you're just shooting jump shots to get warmed up and you're just trying to get your flow, you can sit there and be thinking about form, and I need to make sure my elbow is really underneath the ball here and whatever, all these things. Or you can just like go out with the normal sort of swagger that you had the last time you were playing and you were on it. And even though you're bricking every shot, now you're just thinking about small adjustments. Like, I just need to put a little bit more on that. Like, and then you're already loose. So there's a way to, I think, be technically minded, but only with the precept of being sort of loose and having at it in a way where, like, if you're skateboarding, let some things not go well, like whatever trick you're trying to do or whatever, you're just act. It's almost like fake it till you make it, but you're not faking it. You're just sort of reapproaching it from this very loose, like, where was I when I stopped last time and I had figured out all this stuff, and then you kind of pick it up from there, as opposed to like always starting from scratch. Like, okay, well, today I'm going to.
Yeah. I had a weird thought the other day while I was skating, and we'll see if it makes sense when I verbally articulate it right now. But yeah, same thing. So like when you're skateboarding, it's very physical, and there's a lot of physicality that goes into it. There has to be like certain muscles engaged and certain things that are working in your body in order for it to work properly, you know? Like you need to be on. And there's some days where it's just a struggle and you just can't feel shit, and your body just feels like garbage, and you're stiff, and everything's hurting and all that, and you're fighting. It feels like you're fighting with the board, you know? And so I was skating. I was, probably high. And as I was going through it, I was like, let me reapproach my mentality right now. Instead of getting mad at myself for not feeling the way I should or whatever it is and struggling with this board, I'm going to kind of like direct my attention to the skateboard and approach my movements from the needs of the board.
Externalization, sort of, in a way. Interesting.
Yeah. And so it was that, again, it's that reciprocity. It's that relationship between you and the skateboard. And then in doing that, then things in your body are naturally going to kind of fire up and open up, like those muscles that are supposed to be activated in your hips that might not have been because you were sitting down all day or something. Then just by making sure that tail of your skateboard gets cracked right in the perfect center of gravity that it's supposed to get cracked to get that good snap and get a good ollie. Then once you start putting that feeling into the board itself, then it's like those muscles are going to turn on. But when you're just thinking about those muscles and what's not feeling right in yourself, and you start to judge yourself and you get frustrated and you lose that feeling, and it's just, again, it just clouds your mind. And then I found that as I was kind of doing that, then it was just naturally that relationship started to kind of open up those things in me that I was struggling with so much to open up myself.
I can see that, like with playing drums or a lot of things where it's just like, if you're trying to do something and you're having trouble with it, just take pause and reflect on the depth of the tonality of like what is in front of you, or, like calm down for a second and just like ring out a chord and make sure everything's perfectly in tune, and just feel that for a minute, and then like reapproach. Yeah. But if you come into it like, I'm gonna Ingve this thing right now, then that's problematic. I mean, because then I like the idea of like to not impose yourself on what it is, but to become more one, or if not deferential to what the medium is.
Yeah, it's like it's the same thing we were talking about. It's going with the flow of it, as opposed to trying to like control it. When you're trying so hard to struggle and control the board or the basketball or the drumsticks or whatever it is, then you're going to be all stiff and uptight because you're frustrated trying to control this thing. But then when you can just like flow with it, then, and again, it's tough, man. This shit comes and goes. Sometimes it's on for weeks and then you lose it for weeks. Sometimes it's like hour by hour. But I've found that the most important thing for me is, like what I was saying before, like not to judge myself for it. Like if you do lose it, just like chill, relax, give yourself a moment to kind of get back into the pocket, get back into the moment, like feel out whatever it is you're feeling, and yeah, just allow yourself to get back in the moment. Because if you just get mad at yourself, then you're just gonna, you're gonna be just more in your head than you were before.
Everything's just gonna be brown.
Yeah,
in your life,
brown and gray.
Well, all right, so we should probably cut it out of here. But listen, I would like you to tell people where they can find your things. Like the things that you do, like with the internets.
You can go to brianwooden.co. That's my website that I rarely ever update. And then you can also find me at Brian Wooden on Instagram and all that fun stuff.
WOODEN.
BRIAN. WOODEN.
Yeah, I get pissed off. Don't you get pissed off when people say, is that with an I or a Y? I'm like, fuck you. I is de facto.
Do I look like a Brian with a Y?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's up to those motherfuckers to specify which letter they're using. We are de facto, right?
It's anyway, like a Brian with a P.
I have no bitterness about this, promise. Joe, what do you got going on? You're always doing so many things.
I don't really have anything to talk about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I've got a bunch of stuff like in the process or in secret or just not ready to happen yet.
Yeah, so does it involve German firearms?
Yeah, I was at my buddy's house where I've been working on a record for too long, but we pretty much have finished the vocals as of last night finally, and nice. Yeah, it was fun. I had like cut like 2 more songs, and then we got those done, and then he has a bunch of guns, so I was like looking at all his German guns.
Whoa. Damn. Well, that's kind of rad.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening, and thanks Brian for taking the time. For real, it means a lot. Like, it's never something we take for granted for people to take time out and come hang with us and
love it, man. Yeah.
Shoot the shit about weird things.
Yeah.
I probably have some things going on, but I can't remember what they are. So who cares? Whatever. Hey everybody, take it easy. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the message following this. It'll tell you how to do things like support this podcast, so we can keep bringing it. And also, Joe and I we have a plan to get rich real fast, and so we need you to help us do that just by giving us your money. We're gonna be rich, Joe.
I can feel it.
Yeah. All right. Catch everybody later. Appreciate it.